Politics as usual. Maintain the status quo. Meaningless budgets. Expand the military. All phrases that describe the opponents of Lucan Delir. They want to maintain the policies of the past and tax your way into poverty to pay for the lazy. Antonia Bale wants to give everyone a free job and a place to live, but whose blood, sweat, and hard work pays for the degenerate, lazy goblins and orcs to get housing that they'll only destroy? Can you trust a woman that doesn't even know the worth of a coin? Bellows will sell your children into prostitution and slave labor under the oversight of the true power behind her campaign. She is but a puppet for the true candidate running, Hot Jessica. They claim Bellows has been under Jessica's thrall and compelling spells for years, and does only as she's told. Maxim is a relic of a dying age, an age so destructive. It destroyed itself, leaving the world in ruins, allowing mutants and beasts free reign over what was once considered paradise. Maxim already ruined his lands. Will you let him ruin yours? Finally, Jism Reich, a fascist dictator who's only out for the purity of roleplay species, killing those of dissenting views by the thousands. He rides his personal tank through the streets, purifying any and all in his path. Lucan Delir stands against them all, blazing sword held high as a shield against the dull-witted, the enthralled, the death of an age, and the death of freedom. He stands on the shoulders of his people, held up high by their praise and their freedom they enjoy in the golden city on the bay. A vote for Lucan Delir is a vote for the future, for family, and for the children of tomorrow. Paid for by the Multiverse Citizens for Lucan Delir. I am Lucan Delir, and I wrote and approve this message. This is RPMMORadio.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
A podcast all about roleplaying and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Straffe, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Hello, role players. This is RPMMORadio, our 61st episode. Let's meet up. You and me right now. It's, what do you say? You know, just a little one-on-one. Nothing creepy, like, you know, maybe somewhere fancy, like a Denny's, maybe Burger King. I don't know. It's up to you. Wherever you want to go. I don't care. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and with me, as always, is the crew, Jazz and Sib and Straffe, and our call screeners and moderators, Ronar and Yunfei, finally back from their harrowing journeys across this great land.
Hey, guys.
From a place that wasn't so great, but was pretty hot.
Hello.
And also dirty. It was very, very dirty. But now they're not dirty.
I wouldn't say that.
Or so they say.
Well, okay, one of them's not dirty. Yunfei, it seems, at least knows how to, you know, not put her head into a bathroom door, but actually use the bathroom as intended.
It was a closet door, thank you.
Oh, my mistake. That makes it totally different. All right, well, appreciate everybody tuning in. It should be a fun episode. Want to thank everybody for watching us over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. You can watch us there every Saturday, 7 Central Time. If you haven't already, if you're new, you're listening live for the first time, give us a follow or a subscription or a thumbs up and welcome. Just like I think I missed it last week because I can't remember, but Shockproof Princess followed us last time, and appreciate you following us, Shockproof.
Yes.
That is a princess. Uh, so how's everybody doing? Is having an okay time? Having fun?
Yeah.
We having.
For the most
I
part,
don't
yeah.
know. I just got in trouble right before the show.
Yeah, because some people don't know how to shut their gaping maw holes right before I'm like, all right, let's start the show. But we're gonna go fishing. Okay,
It's a case.
I'm gonna start the show now. I'm gonna go fishing too.
It's a case of he can dish it out, but he can't take it.
And then I was like, okay, guys, seriously, you need to shut the fuck up. Oh, he means it. Yeah, I mean it. I gotta start the stupid show. This isn't like some podcasts that go live like 40 minutes late, not looking at Limit Break Radio.
You just called your own show stupid.
Yeah,
I
it
know.
is. I know,
You
but
did.
I've only got like so much to work with
You're
personally.
stupid.
Ooh.
Well, you guys, how did you take that, Jazz? I said personally. You went to a dark place. Dark place.
I did.
Man, you're so negative. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but she's just so negative. See, you hear that? You hear that tone? Man, if this was the 1950s,
I don't think it's.
I don't really
Chad.
actually
It's
know what the hell.
negative.
I am not negative. I am a ray of fucking sunshine.
Uh-huh.
Screw you.
Yeah, you can
Kind
tell.
of sunshine.
I got
You
sunshine
wish.
coming out of every orifice of my ass.
Every orifice of your ass.
And it's really just
You
the
have
one.
more
but
than one? Really? Because that's kind of odd. I mean, if you think about it.
is that not normal?
Well, I mean,
You might want to get that
Sim-
check, bro.
when Sib, takes, lays into you,
Yeah, she has.
she rips you a new one.
Yeah, and it's happened
So, he
so
must
many.
have a lot then.
It's
okay.
so. It's
Trust
so.
me, he's got a lot of ass.
It's so
to
often.
rip into.
It is basically a pepper shaker back there.
Sib,
Oh
go
my
on.
God. You're so bad.
Fire down below.
It's just.
Go
It's.
away.
I mean, I'm just saying. After Taco Bell, it's like a shotgun. It's scattershot. It's just everywhere. So,
Oddly enough, this episode's sponsored by Taco Bell
and shotguns.
and shotguns. Remington, Mossberg, we don't discriminate.
Try the new Taco Bell shotgun. It'll get most of it into your mouth.
No, bad.
So bad.
Very bad.
What?
Yeah,
It
it's
just
so good.
It shoots tiny tacos. What are you guys thinking?
Uh-huh.
It's a tiny taco shotgun.
Yeah.
You guys are so dark. God.
Look who we hang out with.
I know, but Straffa's and used to be a nice guy. And
Used to
So-
be. Yeah, well,
and then you got comfortable. Isn't that just the way of it? Anyway, so special thanks to everybody out there. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Of course, make sure if you want to listen on the podcast, appreciate all of our podcast listeners because you are the majority. You are the, 85 to 90%. It doesn't really have the same ring or chant to it, but we'll go with it. I also want to give a special thanks to all of our Patreon donors, for who without which we would not be able to do cool loots, which we are currently working on. I saw some of the stuff Straffe had put up, and it looks pretty good. He just has to combine a few things, and I think we'll be good to go. It actually looked really nice. It's almost like he went to school for it.
Almost.
Almost.
Almost like that, huh?
Almost like he does it daily. And then he volunteered. I didn't ask him, remember. He volunteered to do it after the fact. So
Yeah.
after he gets done doing a long day staring at a screen for, I'm going to assume 8 hours a day, he gets to come home and voluntarily stare at a screen for another 8 hours a day.
Yeah. But the company's vastly improved when I get home.
You're alone, aren't you?
No, I'm talking to you guys most of the time.
Oh, okay.
Dang, man. Now
Well, I was
you
just
are.
saying, I don't know your
You're not talking to Ashton. We'll
I
just
don't
put it
know
that
your
way.
coworkers. I mean, there's a few
they're
of them.
alright.
There's a few of them I know. I'm like, I don't know how you survived this long.
They're good dudes, but ultimately you have that specter of the cloud of we have to be here for 8 hours hanging over their heads. It kind of
Right.
flavors everything.
It's kind of like that thing. I saw something on the internet that for those of you who don't know, it's a passing fad. It probably won't be around much, but basically you could connect to other things around the world. But it basically had said that you spend all your day waiting to stop looking at bad screens so you can go home and look at the good screen.
There you go.
That's true.
I mean, I know I used to do that when I worked at a computer all day long, taking phone calls and customer service calls from AOL Shop Direct.
It's also very telling that he immediately went to "you're alone" instead of "hey, you're talking to us."
Well,
Yeah.
I thought he lived alone.
So that just shows where he values everyone's company.
If I wasn't married, this would be a very, very lonely place with like one bulldog and and probably a bunch of chinchillas because I would be making them into a coat eventually.
Oh my god!
Be a soft coat.
I mean, they're cute,
It would be a soft coat.
but it takes a lot of them to make a lot of meat. You know,
And you'd have to get all the dust out of them.
Oh man, they are just
Oh my god!
so. But especially for our Patreon donors, those at the Raid Boss level, which we have the Truth Bob, who we always appreciate. And we appreciate every single one of you guys that helps keep the show going, though God knows why you do it. If you, too, would like to help support the show, you can do that over at patreon.com/RPMMORadio. If you also want to do it through the live stream as well, you can throw bits like Wakachodo does. I think there's a thing where like you can donate and it will like say what you type over the show, and that will make it onto the podcast. So use it.
Be careful.
Use it however you want, as long as you're paying for it. Just remember, it's $1 a word. It's not really the dollar word, but you know, I was gonna go with it. It's actually something I'm fairly certain I have it set up correctly, but nobody's actually ever used it because I don't know. I actually don't even know how it works. I've never done it myself. I just have it set up. So if anybody actually does it, I'll let you know if it works or not. And also, thank you for the $1 or whatever it is you brought through. So with
We
that,
love Wakachodo. He's a good dude.
yeah, he is. Where's he at? Is he even around right now? I can only see viewers. I don't see like a list.
He actually queued your thoughts and prayers. He got deployed.
Oh, again?
Oh.
Yep.
Is it just
He
a
couldn't tell.
short term?
I don't know.
I hope
I
so.
never asked because he can never tell. So.
Right? Yeah. Don't ask.
I know
Don't.
the other day
That
on the
whole don't
General
ask, don't
chat,
tell.
He had said something about he was on standby and he didn't know. If
Yeah,
he was
well,
gonna
last
have it or
time-
not.
Last time he did it, he was back in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So it was
Yeah, he went
pretty.
to Israel for the weekend. I was
Yeah.
like, dang, bro. He's like, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So that's cool. Hopefully it's another short stint. And he'll be back before we know it. So well.
Yeah.
Best of luck to him and all our servicemen and women out there, and any gender in between.
He does love the show. Every time right before the start, he's like, "You gonna be on tonight?" I'm like, "You know it."
Yeah, which
They're
does
watching.
make me worry for our military men and women
What?
that he loves this show.
Oh,
Well, you know.
All right, enough of that horseplay. So let's go ahead and I actually thought I would break tradition today, and instead I'll go first right after Jazz. What?
Still hear that negativity in her laugh, though, bro.
I know it's just pervasive. Word of the day.
Pervasive dark ire.
Now you're just stringing things together like a kid trying to make the essay long enough with a thesaurus out.
I'm just paying attention to what the news does.
Or
Copy
you're
it in,
you're an edgelord. Either one.
No.
My
Oh, no.
pervasive dark ire leans against the wall.
I've seen that crap before, actually.
I was gonna say that's. I'm not sure that's not a direct quote from somebody at one point or another.
Oh, edgelords. I saw them all week.
So Jazz, what you been doing
Yes.
this week? Pudding?
Well, the drama has happily faded away. So I was able to do a lot of decorating and a lot of roleplay.
Funny
I
how
was
that
very
went
pleased
away
about
when the
that.
people that were causing it left.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
That's weird. It's like there's a pattern.
So it's been very quiet, which was nice.
Yeah,
There's been a lot of Telvanni RP after their leaving due to just developing storylines that were in the process at the time of the drama that all got stalled out while we waited for the drama to fix itself. And some of the IC drama is kind of circled around them leaving, but only like peripherally. Am I saying that correctly? Peripherally, on the edges.
Yeah. You believe in yourself like Kanye believes in Kanye.
Yeah, let's just not.
Okay, not that far, but a little bit more.
Yeah. My brain has kind of been mush for the last week and a half, so I have to check if I'm using the right words. Let's see. Work has been very busy, and that means there's been a lot of real life drama that I've had to deal with. So I've been kind of, when I get home, I just kind of shut off and relax and game.
Computer
so I have
good.
Yes. Computer good, wine
Better.
good. Yes. Very good. Let's see. So I'm going to read something as if it's Sully winding down after her hellish week.
Mm-hmm.
And that ought to kind of show you all the things that happened in this week. So that's what I'm going to read. Sully sat at her desk and rubbed her temples, then the back of her neck as she groaned. What a week. She chuckled and began to fill her notepad with quick reminders of the last week for her journal later. Delatorre's mouth was brought to her for lessons after last night's meeting, on politics of all things. Delatorre was incapable of understanding the lesson himself, and at one point decided the lesson was over, not appreciating her candor about things, such as her opinion of him. Amusing, really. Her plans with the Telvanni continued to be complicated. Her father continued to be obtuse about his sexual conquests and how idiots affect the Telvanni as a whole. Her plans were thwarted due to Mara's actions, but that was fine. It was still headed where she wanted it all to go. Her date with the gentleman caller went well last week, and he was busy with the mess in Morrowind currently. They would have another date soon. Ille had showed up at the meeting, making demands and refusing to attend the master's meeting after spending a half hour during the meeting, complaining about how she was never invited to the meeting. Whatever. She made her choice, and now none of them had to keep her appraised. At least one less thing for her to do on a weekly basis. She checked that off her list. She did need to meet with the girl that came with Ille last night, and perhaps she could salvage her allied agreement with Ille by attending the meeting at Ille's house. Why was life always so complicated in the Telvanni? Some days she truly missed the life of a commander. It was so much simpler back then. Whipping her mouth, which was what happened this week as well, wasn't fun for her, but necessary to teach a lesson and to show that she, unlike Delatorre or her father, would discipline her mouth as necessary when infractions occurred. Loss of her friendship and allied connection to Draven and Falcarin still smarted, but it was what it was. They would recoup their losses soon enough. Sully leaned back inside and eyed the bottle of wine. Her housekeeper murmured that her bath was ready and departed to the kitchen. Sully moved to the bath and took her bottle with her, drinking fine wine as she had her soak for the day. Her mind went to the greeting area below and how one temper tantrum had turned it all to ash. When did she get that powerful? She mused on that as she played with the bubbles on the water. She also mused where her mother's warded library would have vanished to, and groused to herself about not knowing that it was warded to portal when fire occurred, and was sensed before her tantrum. That would have been handy to know. Life was weird in her house without the library. So far her scrying had turned up nothing. It had to be somewhere, and her mother's ghost was being obstinate and refusing to divulge the information. Petty harpy. She reminded herself to ward all the new furniture arriving against fire as she dried off and went to bed with a chuckle. Ah, yes, life was never boring. She drifted to sleep. She thought about sex, but was too tired to give it any more than that. And the night passed quiet.
Sad, but the older you get, the more that's all you get out of it.
You just kind of think about it for a minute, and you're like, oh, maybe later.
But they're already asleep, and I'm really tired, and I already stayed up too late.
Or I've got a book. I could just
terrible.
read.
Yeah, it's just... it's such a chore. It's messy.
There's so much effort.
It's almost like exercise, really. I mean...
There are some epic slackers. Holy smokes.
Oh, it's just...
Listen, you haven't gotten old yet.
It's not the years, it's the mileage, kid. So... All right.
So that was my role play for the most part. I did get on Zasher on Monday and had training, and that
Yeah,
went well.
you got knocked the fuck out.
Oh yeah, he did, man.
Yeah,
I rolled terribly, and
Yeah.
he had all the rocks fall on his noggin. So
yeah,
he's been recovering at home, and I've just kind of been taking it easy with him. There's been a lot of changes in the guild that he's in, and I'm kind of taking a step back and letting things settle before, because
Yeah.
I haven't had the best of luck with them, and I really don't want to grate on anyone's nerves during the transition. So he's just kind of been laying low. He goes on his little exertions. I expect that he arrests people as he needs to and does what he needs to,
Right,
and everything
yeah.
proceeds as he needs to. But I don't mention it right now because I'm just kind of keeping a low profile.
I've been kind of burnt out. I've been burnt out a little bit, but there's a big community wide things going on with Jay the Exile, who I think might still be listening, but there's so many people involved, and there's so many moving parts, and I missed a few days, and I got so far behind at this point. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just kind of waiting for it to be over, which I think a big part of it happens tonight, I actually believe.
Yes, I believe the large part of it happens tonight.
That's the big drawback to those big things. Once you miss a day, you're kind of out of it. You're playing catch up, and then you just get discouraged.
Yeah, and I was never really too deep into it. I'm sure, as a high ordinator, I can definitely get into it. It's just, and also, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've suffered a little bit of burnout still, and playing Dragon Quest XI ended up being a lot more of a compelling story arc than I actually thought it would be, and a lot more fun. So I've been kind of doing that. But I did run the training thing that Jazz was just talking about on Monday, Falling Rocks. I actually got the idea, like I've said, listen to the lore podcast if you want weird, crazy ideas of shit to do in-game for events. But it was based off, apparently, back, I think it was the 1800s, but there was these weird events of just giant stones, like anywhere from like pebble size all the way up to like fist size and bigger even, falling from the sky. And they say it was, one guy woke up in the middle of the night staying at a tavern by bangs against the wall, and all the people were downstairs looking out the thing, and it was just basically raining rocks, and it weren't being thrown because there were too many of them. They couldn't see anybody, and they were coming from basically straight up, and it was something that happened over a series of years and months and things like that. And I was like, that'd be a fun training exercise to use earth magic and just have all the ordinators stand in their line and then throw a bunch of giant stone or hundreds of giant stones and kind of go with the dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball and let them roll.
Oh yeah, makes
see
sense.
How it went. And it went fairly quickly because this was one of those events. I set it up so that she used her earth magic. She flung them all up into the air and then let horrible gravity do its thing. So they could use their shields, they could ward, they could try to just get out of the way. The higher they rolled, the better they, the more they got out of the way and less harm. The lower they rolled, the more they got pelted. And we did 3 rounds of that. But instead of, a lot of times, I'm trying to get a lot of the people from the servants, because we've had so long of people like letting after you roll what happens to your character, to make them decide that based off of the roll. Kind of, it was a training exercise both in character and out of character is kind of what I'm doing. Maybe I don't have any right to do that, but I do because I think it's a good exercise and for both of them to keep people's minds sharp. And the first few of them, it was just kind of help prove it, was they did their roll, but their emotes just said that they attempted to get out of the way, or they attempted this and that, but they didn't say if they did based on the roll. And I was like, nope, guys, use your roll. The higher the number, that you've dodged it, and you decide based on the roll what you want to have happen. It's not up to me. It's going to be up to you. So, and after that, the next few rounds, man, they people like Strafe, he was getting a lot of the big ones, but he just got pelted on the shoulders by the little ones. It was basically chaos, which was what the whole point of it was. But everybody enjoyed reading everybody else's emotes, and towards the end of it, they got a little wow, they really rolled bad. Can I just mention how much that dice bot just hates people? It really, I think it's
rigged, man.
I think that
really,
dice
really
bot,
bad.
yeah, it was made by raiders for role players, so it automatically has like a 75% chance to low roll. I'm thinking it's got to be. I don't know what it is, but it's terrible. So at the end of it, I think only half of them were still standing. A few of them weren't conscious. I know Malel, one of the Yalifs, yeah, he got knocked the fuck out. Jazz got knocked out. There were a few other that were like, I'm going to be sick, with head wounds. So then the second half of the training took in, which was, all right, so basic healing and getting the wounded off the battlefield and down to the infirmary. But everyone seemed to have a real good time. It really only went about a half hour, and then the rest of the half hour was everybody, taking care of everybody else, which was also a nice lesson. And basically everyone just role played, the consequences of a training exercise. And it's been a while, I think, since we had a training exercise where people really got hurt, knocked out, and Jazz was ordering drinks at the counter of the infirmary. She was very confused.
It was pretty funny.
It had me laughing. It was like, go ahead, Kirsten, I got our drink order ready. It's like, this, you need to get to a cot. Yeah. You need to lay down. No, I want a Shizuma. Why can't I say that word? Yeah. So, but no, that was kind of really all I did all week. I've just been slacking. Like I said, burnout, and I don't really know what all the stuff that's going on. I'm just kind of waiting for everything to settle down and get back to normal and get back into the normal day-to-day stuff of things I enjoy a little bit more, because the big group efforts, it's just, I know we've done episodes on it, on how to do it. It doesn't mean I always like it or I'm in the mood for it, and I'm just not. So that's me. So, Sib.
Oh.
Yes.
You look very nice tonight.
Oh, yeah, you've been a total butt.
Your
Your
hair looks real pretty.
My hair always looks pretty.
You smell good.
You smell like the inside of my mama's purse.
Oh my god.
I have not been on a lot this week again. I've had another really slow week. So I really don't have any stories or anything.
Mm-hmm. Just decorating people's houses, man.
Well, technically.
Blowing up somebody's house.
Man, I know. Destroyed it.
They did all the work.
Destroyed it.
She had to get the Altmer lady smell out of that house, and she blew the house up.
Yeah, she's just like... She was throwing her orc feces everywhere. It was just...
No.
They're savages. She was peeing on the furniture. She was rubbing her butt on the carpet. I wouldn't go that far, but...
No, are you sure that's not what you were doing this week?
That's what he was
I don't
doing.
have to answer these charges.
But no, I didn't really get any role play. I spent 2 days watching shows with our son.
Yeah, that's right.
Family time. And
stupid family time. But it was a lot of fun. I heard them up there laughing their asses off.
So much fun.
There's not a lot of things when your son going on to 16 wants to do with your mother. So when it comes along, you kind of snag the opportunity before they're gone forever.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So 2 days in a row for 4 hours. That's him not on the computer. That's her not on the computer. That's time well spent right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a good time.
God, you're making it sound like college is just like the end of life.
Well, it kind of is sometimes.
Well, no, this one's only 16. The girl's the one in college.
In high school.
This is the boy. The boy's in high school.
This is
still.
a teenage boy that thinks parents are weird and dumb.
Right, but he was talking like, you got to catch it before they're gone forever.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because they're
never going to visit again because they just leave.
They'll visit. They just won't spend time with you until after they've got their own house and family, and they'll be like, yeah, I really miss spending time with you. It's like, yeah, well, your kid's pooping on the rug. Go clean it up.
You're so bad.
You say that. I had a cousin that did that. It was okay. She peed on it, but still.
But no, that's what I did. That was my week in roleplay.
Man, just what kind of roleplay show is this? We don't even. Neither one of us are even doing it. We got Jazz over there. That's it. And I guess there's Strafay. I guess
had a really good run for.
Yeah,
a
you
couple
really
weeks.
did.
And then all of a sudden, I got super.
Well,
busy
and then yesterday it rained for like 8,000 hours straight for crazy, and we were out in it for 4 of those 8,000 hours, and while I'm glad not to have been in 100-degree heat, being soaked to the bone is awful too, especially when your shoes and socks get wet. There is nothing more true than that line out of Forrest Gump where they're talking about wet shoes when they're in the Nom.
Yep.
Oh, that's the worst. You can survive everything else being soaked to the bone, but when your feet get wet, man, game over. Game over, man. Game over.
Game over.
So, Strafay.
Yes, sir.
Did you beat the game yet?
Did
you beat roleplay yet?
No.
Did you beat roleplay?
All right. Well, I guess tell us what you've been doing.
Fickle dragon. This week, on the episode of Kisdy and the Reformed Ordinator, or Reformed Bandit.
Reformed in quotation marks.
Exactly. He made it to practice early. He's still hating life in that under his new golden gilded prison. And when toyed with by the new High Ordinator,
sexy
Tarbala.
Too.
Oh, beyond a doubt. But you can't let her know that it'll go straight to her head. He did not give in to her baiting because he knew better. She's no longer the olive. She's no longer her friend. She's out to make our lives miserable. Which proved to be true when she started hurling rocks at them for the next couple hours while then endured that. At some point, Kisdian, he's world weary. He figured it out. He blocked 2 waves of it. And the third, what happens with Kisdian, he gets pissed. When he gets pissed, he gets reckless. And when he gets reckless, he gets hurt. So when the third wave of rocks came in, he thought to himself, you know what? I'm gonna swipe a rock and send it right between her giant, vast tracts of land. Instead, he missed. Really? He got horribly pelted in the shoulder. Not as bad as his friend Zaz, who had 2 boulders directly to his face, which he had to drag into the medic tent. But all in all, he learned the lesson to not get pissed, just get even.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few drinks, it was clear to both Kisdian and his friend Zaz, who was seeing 3 of him, that the ladies probably didn't like them because they were kind of on the dirtier and the lower end of the Ordinators. So they decided to retreat to his place, where Kisdian offered him a compound for his head, compact, whatever you call those things, and said, "Why don't you clean yourself up and go take a nap? Because you're going to pass out, and I ain't cleaning up your puke." After he made sure Zaz was out, he slipped back off to Vivek to his safe house and then reported in the morning for patrols.
Woo!
As for Trath, he went around doing his various nightly duties for the Crown, patrolling Reaper's March, patrolling Hughesbane, or reconning Hughesbane, rather. And then coming home to find his villa was completely destroyed, with a sickly-looking Voli grinning like, I didn't mean to wreck everything, but, things needed to change. So he just nodded, gave her funding to fix things and add more things, and that was the week for Trath.
Pretty straightforward.
She's still looking ill. Trath's not sure about that because his cures are not helping.
Yeah, well, I mean, that face can only be improved on so much.
Oh my god.
I mean, there's only so much plastic surgeon can do to repair that amount of orcish damage.
No.
That is not the affliction. She's waking up sick. Trath can't figure out why.
Oh, she's pregnant. Okay, so gotcha. So you guys are having RP babies now.
God.
I get it.
I hope not, but yeah.
RP babies, it's happening. Jazz, it's finally happening.
She'll be fine in a couple days.
You'll be fine in a couple days.
Oh, man. I can make a really dark joke here, but I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna?
I know, right?
I know, right?
It's because it's that dark. Even I'm like, I don't know if I'm even comfortable with that one.
I mean, you can't just say it and then not say it repeatedly.
I'm
so
just saying Gosnell's out there somewhere. I'm sure he'd be happy to help with the morning sickness.
Oh, no.
Told you.
Hey, but it's all for the viewers, so there you go.
Yeah. Lucky viewers.
But yeah, it was a slow week, but it was still fun for what we did.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I highly doubt Rahana or Yunfei actually have done much of anything other than put together ungodly amounts of furniture and move things around.
Yep.
Because I also know they haven't
That probably sums it up right there.
internet for half of it and didn't have power cords or Ethernets for the other half. Because, by the way, I don't know why how much did you spend for that 150? It was like
$7.
$7, yeah. So to get that here locally, because you always want to buy local, unless of course that same exact cord costs you $50 locally, and then in that case, they locally can go fuck itself.
Yeah, I have that problem too.
I don't know. It's a fucking Ethernet. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just go grab you an Ethernet cord, and and so that they don't have to order it. They can get it sooner. And then I called them like, you want a 50 or 100, but it's like 30 and $40.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll just order it online.
Yeah, that Ethernet cable better be made of solid gold and make you breakfast in the morning.
Seriously, at least give you a hand job after you log off. Good Lord.
Yeah, my husband used to say that. Do I get a lap dance with that?
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't one, like, I checked Best Buy, because, like, I knew they would have it. That was the price.
Lap dances?
Only in the Geek Squad. Only when they're really desperate. And then I went across the street to Staples. I was like, I'm sure it's just nope. Oh, just actually more expensive here. So, yeah, just order it online. You're out of luck. But we did play. I did whoop I did whoop the guy that can't hardly see the screen's butt at what was that, Mario Kart, which was fun. But Raving Rabbits, that's a one-on-one. So we're gonna have to have a rematch. Because once we both figured out what the fuck was going on, we were playing Rabbids versus Mario, which was actually it's a lot more fun as a multiplayer game than it was as the single player. I will say that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that, especially learning all the moves. And he got me. He that last round, man, you solidly whooped me.
I can play strategy games.
Yeah,
things like non-strategy games, I'm not so good at.
Not so you got good strategery, not so much good twitchy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Something like that, yeah.
Jazz, I don't think you understand. You got to have in war and combat. You got to have strategery.
It's funny to say because a game whose premise is the characters from Mario and the characters from Raving Rabbids get mixed together.
Yeah.
Was actually a lot of fun and has a lot of strategy too.
And a lot of strategy. And funny enough, somehow they ended up with guns. I don't know where the guns came in, but that's just what the NRA wants. I'm sure it was NRA sponsored. That's how it works. So let's not talk into politics. That was episode 50. All right, so before we get into our main topic, this was actually submitted by a listener, Razor's Edge, and I thought it was pretty good. But it actually gave me a thought of something, a contest of sorts. I know it did actually hurt, Jazz. Thank you very much.
I wasn't going to say it, but somebody had to.
It was... I only assume that's what Albert Einstein felt like all the time. Just dizzy and in pain.
No, see, that's just you.
But no, because he was super smart like I am.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he discovered the theory of relativism, and I discovered the theory of, how many hot dogs can I fit into my mouth? The answer is 8.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, they were ballparks, so they were pretty juicy. But anyway, so
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah, I'm not even touching that one.
Nope.
That's what she said.
Sibs, is that really what she said?
No, I was talking about anybody that goes out with you.
Oh, dang.
I need the cricket sound.
That face.
But anyway, it actually had me thinking because we're, like I said, Strafe's in the process of kind of creating using Smiling Sorcerer's llama and making stickers for it. And we're gonna have some, but I thought it might be fun too. Once we get them in to do a little contest and an episode of fake ads. It's been a staple of our show since day one. I always just enjoy doing them. We've all done a couple here and there, but to actually see what you guys would come up with as listeners, I thought would actually be kind of fun, because this, I'll be honest, this came completely out of nowhere. It never even would have occurred to me probably otherwise, because I'm not smart. Not that I'm not. Luckily, I'm so good looking, it doesn't really matter.
Use your words, Ashen. Use your words.
I mean, when you look like I do, you really don't need to be smart. I mean, you know.
It's because people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, poor dear."
Right. They just give me money. Yeah.
Well,
they feel bad
bless
for
your
me.
heart.
That's right.
See,
Bless
I hear
your
that
heart.
an awful lot. I first heard it from my mother and my grandma and my aunt. Oh, and my nieces. I hear that from my nieces.
Were that many people there when you were born?
Oh, no, this is over a period of time.
Oh.
But see, I was so smart, I forgot every time that it happened, so every time was the first time. Don't think too hard on that. But anyway, no, I thought of, if you guys, I'm not starting it right now or anything like that. We don't even have stickers. We're going to have them once we get the final thing done and ordered. They'll probably be here in no time at all.
Are you saying we'll have, like, Crapco stickers?
Crapco?
Yeah, you know, Crapco sponsors a lot of our stuff.
Yeah, I knew what he was going with. I was just saying. I was waiting to see what Sid would. Anyway, so yeah, we'll probably have a small contest. The winner gets a sticker. Yes, it is going to be like being back in kindergarten, but at least it'll be a big sticker, and it'll be a show sticker. And for everybody else, you know, of course, the Patreon will definitely be a place you'll be able to get it as well. But if that sounds like something people would be interested in, maybe give it some thought, and eventually we'll ask, and hopefully if we get enough. Of course, if there's only 2, one of you 2 are going to get a sticker. If there's only 1, it's going to be a really easy contest. So with that, I'll go ahead.
2 role players enter, 1 role player leaves.
That's right. You know, the more the merrier. I mean, let's be honest. I think you've all heard some of our ad reads. They don't exactly have to be the best thing, you know, that's ever been done. It's no Orson Welles talking about, you know, snow peas, for example. The last part of his life was actually rather sad. So anyway, with that, let's go ahead and go to one of our new sponsors. Are you tired of playing your games only to find out you made so little money? Oh, is it? Or perhaps you spend hours or days farming, gathering nodes, and wasting your life away? So much time is gone. Well, all that could be a thing of the past. Introducing Money Rake, an app for your computer, tablet, or phone. Just install the Money Rake app on your selected device. Set the game you want to make money for and rake that money in. Our Money Rake app is compatible with all the popular multiplayer games played today and even several old ones from days gone by. Best of all, Money Rake is absolutely free. Just pay a small transaction for each time you use it. Your in-game money will be delivered promptly to you in person via the in-game mail. So, if you're ready for Fat loot. Install Money Rake today. Money Rake makes no guarantees of anything. Money Rake can be addictive. Use at your own risk. Money Rake may violate the EULA and get you banned. Money Rake may go offline as we occasionally get raided by the police and need to be relocated to our secure servers. Money Rake doesn't actually exist. Please don't support your local Chinese gold farmers. Aww. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I thought he did good.
Yeah, not bad.
Not
bad.
terrible.
Not terrible. Oh, you got to hear that, Razor. You got to step up the game, man.
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
It was really good, actually.
I know. We just got to shit on him. He's a friend of ours too from long ago. So if we just were like, "Oh man, that was fantastic,"
I'm jealous.
he probably wouldn't believe it.
You got to troll a little bit.
He made a better one than I can do.
Bless your heart.
I know. I'm gonna start having him do mine. I'm gonna be like, I need a commercial, Razor.
It's about this. Make it so. Oh, poor Nadish.
I pay in hugs.
Squishy hugs.
If I can't, I got nothing else. Just hugs.
Squishy hugs. All right, so let's move on to our main topic. I mean, why not? I mean, I suppose we should. One of the crazy things about our modern era is the fact that you can become close personal friends without having actually ever met them. It's a bit of a strange 20-year now development, give or take a couple years, depending on when you got a computer and an internet. People are meeting online, they play online, they talk online, and sometimes it moves from virtual to the reality. This is especially true at least it seems like it to me, in RP communities. I hear it a lot more in our circles than I do in, say, the people playing Fortnite, for example. Mostly because most of those are 13-year-old boys, and that is considered something that will get you put on a wanted list. Yeah. And Jazz, that was a very dubious. But
it was very dubious.
Yeah, that was
something you want to tell us, Jazz.
Yeah, that's.
Just be very, very careful.
I'm guessing she has kids in that age range, so I'm guessing she's like over their shoulder, like, who the fuck is that?
I do. I totally do, and I have on occasion.
Yeah.
I have had to step in and say, "This is my 13-year-old son. Fuck off."
Yeah.
And then they vanish.
Yeah, and we'll go over the dangers of the interwebs and things like that here after a while. But yeah, it's for the most part, I think it ends well. Not always, but it should. Especially given most of the roleplay communities, like I said, roleplays and guilds. We get to know each other. We share stories and ideas, and we kind of give insight into one another's like ways of thinking and our personal lives, especially once you really start to get to know them. So when you take that leap, if the opportunity presents itself, how should you go about that? Recently,
very carefully.
Yeah, and very, very carefully, and it's one of those things. You really do have to be careful, because there are, we've all known people that, we've got both Jazz and Straface psychos who seemed like really decent people for a long time, and then the cracks started to show. And, and then that crack turned into,
a rift.
The Mariana Trench.
Even better.
At least in Straface's case, I think Jazz's was more of the Grand Canyon, but you were definitely a 7-mile deep hole of crazy.
And there was 2 crazies in there for a while until I narrowed to 1 and then got out.
Yeah. But thankfully, most of the time, it ends like it did when I met Rohanar and Yudfe, which was just horror. It was just utter horror. It was awful. It was the worst thing that's ever done. No. It was actually very exciting to get to meet somebody. And given, they've... Not everybody... Usually when you meet them, it's not that they don't just... also have just moved 12 miles away from you. That's that's not something that always happens, but I'm good with it. I'm not saying that because it's like, so yeah.
We would have been closer, but we couldn't get anywhere closer.
There were no houses available for sale next door.
Oh my god.
The alleys around you are far too lit.
We actually do have a utility easement in the backyard that I'm thinking now is going to need a light.
Nah,
Or like 3.
it's fine. It's fine.
I can see your back window from the the telephone pole. But that's just visiting with Rahanar and Yunfei were kind of a different case because if judging by what you guys said, the size of your what sounds big when you say studio apartment was the living room of your current apartment, minus things like the kitchen, the bathroom, and the bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to mention the roaches.
Yep.
The floor damage from the refrigerator leaking. And
me falling several times.
And you
broken
falling
windows,
constantly. Yeah.
The shots fired. It was terrible.
Yeah. So since you've been here a week, how many bullets have you heard?
0. It's really nice.
See, yeah. Well, and you're in an open carry state, by the way. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, funny that. Huh?
As opposed to Phoenix, capital of kidnappings and the slave trade in the world.
We live down the street from a serial killer.
That's true. Yeah, they also live down the street from a serial killer.
That is terrifying.
Yeah. So they're in a slightly better place now.
Yep.
But and that's awesome. It's been really cool to meet them. It's been been fun hanging out, and I'm given it's not all been like fun because a lot of it's also been like them getting all the stuff that you need when you move 4 states away.
Yeah.
And it was fun watching Rahanar almost have a heart attack that one time at the Sam's when they had to buy a whole lot of new stuff. It wasn't even my money, and I was like, that makes me really anxious.
Let me tell you, when you do not have a lot of income in your life and you manage to get some money and then you spend $1,200 in one go, it is a world-changing experience and not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah. But again, they're rebuilding their lives. And
we had to keep reminding ourselves of that.
Right. Yeah. Because when I met them, they had 4 suitcases and 2 cats. Not the cats, by the way, weren't in the suitcases. They had their own.
Sure, they were.
Probably should clarify that.
Right? Yeah, they actually did have their own thing.
We had 2 cats in carriers. There were about 4 other cats in the suitcases.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
we didn't show you them.
2 of the suitcases, including the big, huge red one, was art supplies.
Because of course it was. Not to mention,
you know how expensive art supplies are?
Oh my god,
Right?
it's friggin' ridiculous. Especially when you go digital.
Clothes can be rebought.
Art supplies are not worth rebuying. You just bring what you got. But no, it was
art supplies are stupidly expensive.
They really are.
She during the unpacking process, during that the other day, she looked at me and she said, "My schminkies didn't make it." Now,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
That sounds like something off of Rick and Morty.
Well-
Morty, you gotta put the schmickies away, Morty.
No,
Morty. Yeah.
they're really, really good, but really expensive pastels, and they didn't quite make the trip.
Oh,
pastels.
sucks.
Yeah, those
They were
are.
smashed all over the suitcase.
Ugh.
Not to mention, were they the kind that did they get melty? Probably, or those that.
No,
They're dusty.
These get dusty.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, everything we owned was covered in a fine layer of multiple different colors.
But it was pastels.
Yeah.
Seriously? I worry about you sometimes.
What? It's one of my favorite characters on Babylon 5 was this regent in the Centauri Empire, who was very, very flamboyant. And he went from regent. When he got regent, he was like, "Regent, what do we do? The emperor's been killed." He's like, "I'm thinking pastels for the throne room." He was a really good character. He was sniveling little whiner, but still very cool character. Anyway, pastels. But yeah, you know, a given. Most of the time when you're going to meet people online, it's not because they're moving to like near you. That's probably more of a rarity than anything. But when you meet them, there's definitely certain things you should have to get into. Which before we get to that, because obviously, Rahanar and Yunfei are the first ones we've actually ever met people we've met online that we then met in real life. I've known Jazz and Strafei a very long time. I've just not had that opportunity to meet them. Yeah. Because Jazz hates us. She's gone and met met the other two that are a state over from us. I don't know how many times, but she's never found the time to come see us. I mean, she could go see Strafei down south, and she could just meet us on the way through.
She'd rather go to Arkansas. And, I don't know why, but hey. Whatever.
Yeah. Grandparents, that's why. Be nice to me.
The South's armpit. She'd rather go there.
Or they're marrying their cousins, but hey, you know.
I'll put it this way. It's not Sib's fault.
It's not Sib's fault. You know whose fault it is? Jazz's fault.
No.
It's not
always Jazz.
Thank you, Rahanar.
But Jazz actually
not my fault.
Has met quite a few people that you've met through the guilds and stuff. So how's that gone for you?
I really haven't had a bad experience, but I'm also
moving
very
on
careful.
Then. We got to keep the show negative, only in the negative. No, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
A lot of preparation went into it. Reassurances to people because everybody's nervous about it. And they should be, because it can be very
especially
dangerous.
It's first time,
yeah. So it's something that I prepared for. I drove there so that I would have my own car. I wouldn't have to be reliant on anyone. And I've met people in Arkansas. I've met people in Washington State. And I've met people. I drove to Chicago and spent 4 days with someone that I knew in EQ. Myra. Her and her husband, Myra. Yeah. So, but again, I mean, there was a lot of preparation, and I felt very comfortable. And I'm very paranoid. So I had to leave an itinerary with like 3 different people. And
yeah. Of course, Jay knew where you were.
Yes, at all times. When I went to Chicago, I wasn't worried about going to Chicago. First of all, I know Chicago really well. It's only 5 hours away. I've been there like 12 times.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy trip.
Yeah. I knew that if something came up and I needed to do something, I know Chicago well enough that I would be fine. I was also staying at a hotel that they split with me, which was amazingly nice of them, because I'm pretty sure it was $300 a night. So,
well, yeah, Chicago. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was Chicago. It was like $300-400 a night. Plus, my car was $50 a night.
Yeah, and if you're spending less than $80 a night on hotels in Chicago, they're probably charging by the hour.
Yes, exactly.
Most of the time.
I had no problem there. It was a lot of fun. They actually hung out with me the whole time. It was fantastic. When I went to Washington the first time, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I took a friend with me, and the 2 of us went together, so there was less danger, per se. And it turned out great.
Okay, and I want to ask, is because for those that don't know, Jazz identifies as a woman. Because she is one. Is it... Just teasing.
You know I'm going to hit you, right?
I know, probably. Whenever you meet me, whenever that
when I finally meet you, I'm just gonna hit you right away.
Yeah, and decidedly so. Is it more... Have you ever met, like, both men and women?
Yes.
So is it more nerve-wracking when you're going to meet a guy friend for the first time over a woman?
Yes.
I mean, just... okay. I assume if I was a woman, I would be too.
It's obviously there's several levels of danger when you're meeting someone of the opposite sex, especially if there is attraction on one side or both. So it's important to take necessary precautions, which we did. We both did. We met, the first friend of mine came to our hotel room when we were there. The other guy we met at a coffee house in a very public place. And so both of those situations, I was not alone, and I wouldn't recommend ever doing it alone because you never know if you're going to end up in a bucket somewhere. So
it puts the lotion on its skin.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's important to take those precautions.
Yeah.
When I went back, I went by myself, but then I had already met all these people, and I was basically just going. It was basically a 5-day party, and it was fantastic. So,
yeah, I want to real quick too. Rentanois in the chat said, "I've only ever met someone once in my RP career. RP'd with her for years and mentioned a local food one time, and she lost her shit. Turns out she lived 15 minutes up the road all those years. Talked, met at a Tim Hortons, and it was all good." Of course, you met at a Tim Hortons because I'm nowhere near a Tim Hortons, and I want to meet somebody at a Tim Hortons.
They're not as exciting as you think.
We have Quick Trip around here, and honestly, I don't know that if anything can beat Quick Trip.
Quick Trip is excellent.
They are the bomb. I know Ron.
But the only thing better than that is freaking Buc-ee's. I don't think you guys got them.
We've been down to Buc-ee's, and Buc-ee's is great for their beef jerky selection.
Yes.
Buc-ee's has a fucking excellent beef jerky selection, especially because we've gone down to Texas. And if you've ever traveled to Texas, let me say this. If you haven't ever traveled down to Texas, you hit a certain point in Texas where they have a Buc-ee's advertisement sign on the side of the highway approximately every 4.5 feet. So that when you see Buc-ee's in the distance, it's this golden city on the hill. And it really is. It's a convenience store. It's a convenience store that takes up about 4 acres of land.
It's a gas station that has like a ridiculous amount of pumps, the cleanest bathrooms, the craziest selection of soda. It's amazing.
It is fucking huge. And again, beef jerky is freaking great. It really is good beef jerky. It's the best road jerky I've ever had. So yeah, I'm sorry. I know Tim Hortons probably has better donuts than Quick Trip. Quick Trip's donuts are garbage. I've seen the Horton holes or something like that. Those look pretty good. But if you haven't been to a Quick Trip, whew, that is not the 7-Eleven with the guy behind there that's like, "So you all gonna get some cigarettes or what?" Yeah, behind the like behind the bulletproof glass that's also then behind the steel bars that's also behind the wire mesh. Yeah, that's not a Quick Trip. But yeah, that is actually really cool, Retinois, that somebody that you had role played with in World of Warcraft for years, and like literally 15 minutes down the street. That has to be a crazy, like, you just got a brand new friend, you know. So Jazz was talking about seeing. So the first time you go there, that's when you really once you've met them, it's kind of like just going to visiting a long distance friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it was just fun, you know. But the first time it was a little nerve-wracking because, you know, you don't really know. I mean, you think you know these people.
Right. You know what they've said and what they've let you know, and maybe like we get here a little earlier, what you've been able to stalk out.
Yeah.
You know, but it's definitely it's nerve-wracking, and you know, and ladies out there, you know, just be careful, obviously, and plan ahead, because there are crazies out there. But before we get to the crazies, so how do you know when it's time? Like, how long, you know, do most people before they get to know each other, like and like each other enough as friends to be like, you know, we're not that far away, we should like meet halfway or something like that. You know, when does that conversation come up?
I mean, I knew everyone that I met in Washington except for one person I had known for 12 years in game and talked, amazing amount of hours, to feel comfortable.
At least weekly, if not daily.
Yeah, if not daily. The other guy I'd known for 8 years. So I felt very comfortable meeting these people.
Right.
I know people now in game that want me to meet them. And that's never going to happen until I have known them for years. I mean, I wouldn't be worried 1 second to come see you guys if I can figure out how to do it in the very short period of time that I have to do it. The only reason that I probably visit Arkansas as much as I do is because my in-laws live there.
Family, right? Yeah. Whatever.
And I take my kids to stay there, and these two friends of mine live an hour away from my in-laws. So I go stay with them so my kids can hang out with their grandparents, not mom hanging over them.
Hang out with Mimi and Papa and get utterly spoiled and have Cheeto dust on everything. Right.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Because they asked me, what kind of soda can we get them? And I was just like, well, she goes, if you weren't being a mom.
Right. There's this comedian. I forget who he is. He's a big guy. He's hilarious. He was talking about the difference between when he was raised versus being them being grandparents. He was talking about his son who stayed over with grandma and grandpa, and he goes to pick him up, and he comes out in his underwear with a soda in one hand and Cheeto dust covering him all over from head to toe. He's like, this place is fucking great. He's like, it didn't used to be like this, boy. It used to be a lot harder. But something when you go from parent to grandparent, you're just like, so you for me, it was Pringles. My grandparents had Pringles everywhere.
Well, see, and I can actually tell you what that is. That's when you become a grandparent, you understand that these little creatures that you can feed a sugar and shake up as much as possible,
they go home.
Then go home.
Yeah, that's right.
Their little butts home.
That's why uncles and aunts are so awesome.
And eventually, as grandparents, you get to the point where you understand exactly the point where they're going to pop.
And then
just before that, you send them home.
You're like, here you go. Have fun. He's so full of sour cream and onion Pringles, he's not going to know what to do. That was at least me. Also Pepsi. Grandpa always had a lot of Pepsi. I don't know why. But anyway.
Your grandpa was cool.
He was good. He was a very cool guy. I miss him greatly.
Love you, Poppy.
I never called him Poppy. He was always Grandpa. Anyway. But yeah, I would say, honestly, man, years for me as well. I mean, I've known you guys all for years, but there's people like in the guilds that I've known for a short period, and even some of them I've known them for a few years, and I'd be like, I'm good. It may be just because I'm a horrible person, but I'd be like, I'm all right. I think I'm good here.
I would feel comfortable meeting Kishmas just because I follow my.
Yeah, well, and we've talked with him so much here too as well. I think that's
a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, well, and maybe there might be a bit of a difference in that because it's so much easier now to talk to people like we're doing right now over Discord.
True.
As opposed to the typing that we used to do for
12, 15 years ago, there was no.
Like, you could, like, Ventrilo and TeamSpeak.
Yeah, but it wasn't quite the same thing.
It was such a bitch and a hassle, most of us didn't bother with it. And I know you were like me. You were a roleplay purist. You didn't want to mess with voice. Unless it was something epically bad, you didn't mess with voice. Now...
It was... I used it as a way to handle drama.
Right, when you needed to show that what you were typing was being sincere and you weren't really mad... You can't do that through type. Sometimes you have to do that through voice. And now it's just literally boop. I click on it and here in Discord and we're connected. It's that easy. You know. So now that you can talk to people, because I mean, obviously anybody that's listened to Kishmas knows he's probably a serial killer, but he's a selective serial killer.
He's a serial killer of halflings.
No, that's me. I mean.
Well, I mean, that's why you and him hit it off.
Really? You wanna think about that for a second?
So about this utility easement that they never dig into.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Anyway, halfling slaughter. Halfling slaughter.
Oh my god.
What? Just saying. I just. So, that has to be a different factor in it. The fact that we can actually talk to people so much easier as opposed to just typing. But even that, you still, man. I've got a story I was going to tell later. But there's the things that can happen online, especially over gaming. With child abductions and things like that, and there's a there's a talk show host that I listen to, and this guy, he's on the radio, he's a conservative guy, but he's literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in security. They actually have live security. They've got they've got all that stuff for his family, and even with that. He recently said a story, and I mean they've got dogs. They've got the police locally call their place the compound. They found out because it's so secure. But at 2 a.m., 2 in the morning, they have like 3 phone lines. One of the phone lines has it's like those office things where when someone picks up, the light turns on red, so that line's being used.
Right.
So 2 o'clock in the morning, his wife hears half a ring, sees that light turn on, which means somebody picked up, and then it turns off. And she wakes him up. She wakes him up, is like, somebody just called, but somebody picked up the phone from inside the house. And and of course his thought is, the hell is wrong with you? Just go back to sleep. Because, that's what I would say at 2 a.m. as well. But sure, they're sitting there talking, he wakes up, and they're just talking about it like, it was a California number. They're in Texas. And then it happens 20 minutes as they're talking. It ring. They notice the red light comes on. And it didn't ring this time, but somebody calling out. And there's they don't have security there because their security guys just had a night off or whatever. So it's only them and their kids there, a son and a daughter. And it stays on for about 5-10 minutes. And then it goes off. And he's like, all right, well, call the security, have them come out here. I'm going to get my gun, and I'm going to check the house. So they do that. And he's got German Shepherd attack dogs on the chain. He's got a gun in the other hand, and he's going through their house. And he's like, I'm if there's anybody here, if there's security, if there's anybody here,
y'all need to say it now.
Speak up, or I will shoot to kill because I'm feeling threatened. The stuff that you're supposed to do if there might be someone in their house. And he hears nothing. And then he goes through the house, and he's like, if there's one of the kids are here, or security, or if there's anybody house, I am about to release the dogs on attack mode, and they will eat you alive, and then I will shoot you. And he hears from the living room his son. It's me, Dad. Don't do that. And he was on the PlayStation. And
Jesus.
And what had happened was their PlayStation, it wasn't in his room. They don't have they don't have computers in their rooms. They don't even have cell phones for that kind of stuff. Their PlayStation 4 is in the middle of the living room where their family can always see them and all that. And he was talking to a 36-year-old. And about games, like the guy had called him, and of course they, the way he is, they're not supposed to give out their phone number, they're not supposed to give out their name, all these security issues, and yet he had, and he's like, well, we're just talking about games, and the guy's connected with Operation Underground Rescue, which is some I've talked about on here before. They help kids out of sex slavery and child slavery and things like that all over the world. They take these just the worst of the worst people down, and the people that buy these kids by the hour and things like that. And he contacted him and gave them the information, and it turned out, then he gave them all this stuff, and it turned out when they had searched for this guy through his contacts, He was a known pedophile being observed by the police currently, and he had managed to, through the gaming and just through the PlayStation, even with their son in the living room on there all the time and being observed, managed to get all this information and was grooming their son for these kinds of things. And they had the local, not local, but the sex crimes unit and things like that come and visit with them. And he had asked the guy, like, okay, so what should I expect by talking to these people? Because I have no idea what's going on. And he told him, the thing you need to be prepared for is that your son is going to defend this guy. And he's going to be mad at you because you're hurting his friend. And so they came, all that was true. They talked to the kids and how it happened. One thing that I found really interesting was that these forensic guys, they asked if they had permission, and they took the PlayStation. And they said, well, we don't record any of that stuff. It's not set to record. And they're like, that doesn't matter. Do we have permission to have a transcript of everything in every conversation your son has ever had on this unit? And they are able to forensically go in on these servers and plug it in. And everything your kids and you say on those, the PlayStation, the Xbox, is recorded somewhere and can be transcribed, apparently. And going through all these conversations, they found out more about this guy. And when they did the background research, it turned out he had 12 other kids on the line that he was grooming for very, very bad things.
That is gross.
Right. And that's why this isn't exactly why we did the episode. It's actually Yunfei that brought this up. But there's a lot of really, really dangerous people out there.
This episode took a freaking dark turn.
Right. And that's it. I want to tell you this because they did that over text and chat. So even talking to people, there are some really bad people out there, and it's scary to think about, but you do have to understand that, which is why what Jazz did, she's a grown-ass woman. This was a kid. And what the police had told this guy was they had just caught somebody else doing the exact same thing. And the only reason they caught this other woman, it was a woman, actually, that was playing online with the kid, got to be friends with him, said, oh, hey, I'm going to be in your city. Would you like to meet at such and such place? They met. She convinced him to get on a plane and go all the way back up, 4 states away up north. And
they ain't watching their dang kids, man.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't matter.
Right. It only takes an hour and your kid's gone. And they, of course, the parents were terrified. They didn't know where their son he just disappeared. As far as they were concerned, he was just gone. And they called the police. They were doing the inspections, and one of the police officers happened to be like, hey, wait, does your kid happen to play games? And they did that same forensic thing with the Xbox on this one, and they found all the conversations, and the kid had noticed, I guess where he was still with her, he was still safe and nothing had happened yet, but he noticed that he had just logged in on his thing. And the kidnapper, he told her, well, that's weird. My parents don't ever play video games. And she instantly knew what had happened. She's like, oh, they don't, do they? And she ran, basically. She just sent him back and tried to run. Of course, they still ended up catching her, thank God. But
hey, Ashen, could I interrupt here for a
minute?
Go ahead. We have Calico on the line.
Man, that guy?
Calico. Yeah, he's got a very pertinent story to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and bring him on here real quick. Let me finish this up real fast here, Calico, and I'll bring you on. But yeah, you have to be careful. There's, even for adults, that's why you have to do what Jazz did. You have to let people know what you're doing, where you're going, and not do it quietly. And really, really watch out for your kids, obviously. But there, even over voice chat, you can't, if somebody really is that sick, you may not know who they are, which is why it's imperative that you protect yourself. And with that fantastically loving story, let's go to our call lines and go to Calico. How's it going, Calico? Thanks for calling.
I'm doing good, man. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. So what you got?
Well, I can actually, I don't know if you'd say beat that one, but I was an EMT for 16 years. And I was in Bakersfield, California at the time this happened. A guy decided to, it really isn't a guy, he was 16. He decided, he was one of these guys that, I'm big, badass online and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I won't mention the game. Wow. And he decided to go after a guy. I mean, he kept calling him and say, hey, I will kick your ass real time, come and face me. And I think it was about a month. The guy said, okay, I will come over there. So the kid gave him his real address. The guy drove about 14 hours, knocked on his door. The kid answered it, and he says, are you so-and-so? The kid's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And this is legit. This was my emergency call. He put a 12-gauge shotgun to the kid's chest and pulled the trigger.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's terrifying. Yeah.
My ambulance got canceled en route because they said the kid was gone. And it turns out the guy sat on the porch and waited. He just got out of prison from Texas for murder. And they found him mentally incompetent. He spent 6 years in an asylum. They let him out, and he went right back.
Just went right back to it, yeah. Just because of some...
And the whole side of caveat to this is like, my dad's in prison. I asked him what kind of rehabilitation they're getting. He's like, then they're not rehabilitating anybody. They just put us in here, and it's a freaking nightmare.
No. Prison originally was just a punishment. Then they tried to do rehabilitation for I don't know, 50, 60 years. And at this point, they're just so overcrowded. There's nothing you can do about that anymore. They don't have time. They don't have time or finances or ability to do something like that. So then when you get into a fight with a 16-year-old online and the kid keeps chesting up to you, that, poor stupid kid, but you that's why you don't give out stuff like that. That's just terrifying.
No. I mean, I still somewhat shake about that call because I listened to the whole thing. Our call, it was about, from our response time, it was about 6 minutes to get to where this was. And we're listening to the whole thing on the radio.
Yeah. Wow. I don't even really know what else to say about that one because you just don't do that. The internet is such an interesting place. Especially these days, it's gotten so charged with politics, and that's how people see themselves. And when it comes to online gaming, World of Warcraft, Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever, especially the multiplayer games where things can get. I mean, if we've listened to our son up there with his friends, like what, like he gets really into it. But if I ever heard him chesting up like that, it would definitely be doing something differently for him. So far, he's just messes with his friends and stuff like that and gives them a crap time. But it's never anything as serious as that.
Well, yeah, something like messing around with like you and Jazz or
right.
Whatever. It's like, hey, yeah, come on over. I know you're coming over for a barbecue or some beer or something.
Right.
But for, Joe, something that I've never met online, you don't take the chance. And with my daughter online now and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially you being a gamer. Yeah. That stuff.
Phone number?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I've had to tell my kids on numerous occasions, don't give out that information. What are you doing?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Well, they don't know where that... No. You don't tell them your city. You don't tell them your highway, your street, the street we live on. You don't release that information because they know your first name.
Even the area code is all it takes anymore.
Yeah, they can find you. It's not hard.
Area code and a phone number, and you got an address if you're willing to spend the money for it.
Yep.
It's public information.
Yep.
So
there's websites out there that if you have a first name and a city, you can list everybody with that name in that city, and you can narrow it down by
just sift through it. It just takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, between that and having Facebook open on the other page, just plugging those names until you see something that seems right. Yeah, it's really not that hard. We had Yunfei tell the story, and early on, several episodes back. This was before the internet was what it was. About that guy that had driven across country and showed up on her doorstep Thankfully he was. I mean, he wasn't exactly right in the head, but he wasn't dangerous at least. But that was, that's terrifying to have somebody just like, boop, here I am. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, I mean, even and this kid, there's no way he thought this would ever happen. Because, I mean, you don't hear about it much, even though I can tell you as an EMT, a lot of stuff happens that never makes the news.
Oh, a lot of stuff. 99% of it. Growing up, my best friend Barry, his dad was Broken Arrow Police Department, and I was like their third kid, basically. I was over at his house all the time. And he was the forensics guy. He was the pictures and all that kind of stuff. And I would say at least probably more than half the time I would spend the night somewhere in the night he would have to go because he got called out on a call. And everything from hostage situations to suicides to murder to just everything. And
yeah, been there and done
never hear anything of it. What were you saying?
Yeah, I've done all of those. Murder, suicides, you name it. I've been there and done it.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, and it's probably just a roll of the dice which ones may or may not get reported on the next day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's usually, I don't want to say politically motivated, because it really isn't, but there's something about, even a minor call that they feel is important than something, that you feel is major, and there's not a word.
Right. Yeah, I know they always that old saying of if it bleeds, it leads, they'll take it, but it's not actually true. That sometimes there could be a lot of that, and then they'll take something very, very minor that's not nearly as important. And I think some of that is trying to like protect images of cities and things like that as well. There's also only so much time in a news cycle, but it is amazing how much And what's funny is as bad as it is now, it's actually safer today than it has been since, I think, 1992, crime-wise. Even I actually heard a statistic today, because everyone always brings out the murders in Chicago. They are at currently, for this year, for 2018, they're at I think a 20-year low, or maybe even more than that, on murders. Like, basically the only murders going on are between the gangs for the most part. It's still exceptionally high and ridiculous, and more so than it ever should be. But even for a city as awful as Chicago has been for decades, is streaming down. We're more safe today than we were when we were growing up. We just don't feel
good
like
old Chirac.
But it really just changed. It went from, the guy down the street to now you have the internet. Somebody in New York gets somebody coming from Florida to shoot him.
Yeah, over ridiculous stuff. I'm sure that that kid is just World of Warcraft. What is there in World of Warcraft that's worth chesting up like that to anybody, especially when you don't know if they're crazy or not. But
especially if some stranger that you don't know knocks on your door and says, "Hey, are you?" and gives you your gamer tag. I mean, it's not like, "Hey, are you John Anderson?"
Yeah.
So, are you Strafe?
Yeah. I mean, do you know this? It's not. Do you know who John
I'll
Connor
never
is?
tell you if I'm really Strafe.
Yeah. If I have someone knock on my door to say, "Are you Ashton Phoenix?" I'd be like, "Who? That sounds stupid."
Just that might have saved this kid's life.
Yeah, it really could have. He'd be like, "What? No, I don't know what that is." But again, unfortunately, teenagers aren't always the brightest because they're teenagers. But yeah, man, that's definitely a cautionary tale of how that's definitely that would be the worst case scenario. We're gonna go with being
that's the absolute worst case.
Yeah, shot in the chest with a shotgun.
That.
Yeah, that's going to be the worst case on that one. But thankfully, that's not typically how it goes. I know we took a really dark turn with this, and that's not really how I meant it.
Really dark turn.
But it is something that you need to be. It's a safety issue. I don't want anybody I know or anybody in our role play community because there are people we've had episodes on it. We had the with Wakachoto with Strafe's little brother. Of mental illness and things like that. Not everybody thinks the way you do. It's such a difficult concept for people to understand that your mentality is not a universal way of thought. The way people can think, the way they see the world, the way the chemicals in their brains react, they see things in such a different, skewed view than you do that you can't comprehend it. So when you're talking to somebody like, you know, that has that, they may seem perfect. That's what we went into with the sociopaths and the psychopaths and things like that. They seem perfectly normal because they know how to fake it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are, which is why it's really nothing on the internet is worth like going after people like that for. It really isn't, you know. And we've had it happen with Jazz. You had it happen with He Who Shall Not Be Named, you know. For all those years you knew him, and then he, you know, he didn't know her, you know, and he tried to do all sorts of stuff in your real life and things like that, and you know, and that's one of the reasons you're probably as cautious as you are.
Yes.
But, you know, that was a scary and very tough time for you because somebody you thought was a friend turned out to be a raving lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, when you meet people, and not every person I've met in my life or that I met somewhere turned out to be sane. But so far, all the people that I met through EQ that I met in person have been wonderful. So I've never had a close call. I've never had anything happen that way.
Made you feel uncomfortable or like in danger.
I knew what I was doing because I was very, very careful. And I knew that we had safety stops all the way in so that I would be protected. And then when people are like, I'm going to go meet this person, like, you need to have at least 3 people that know where you are at all times. You need to have a text message set up that you send regularly so that you say, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. Because if they don't get the I'm okay, they call the police where you're at.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I mean, you set that stuff up not because you think they're a bad person, but you have to protect yourself.
Right. And hopefully they're doing the exact same thing to you.
Yes.
Because you can be just as crazy. You know? They don't know.
Seriously.
They don't necessarily know that you are on the up and up.
You know, when I went to go meet my friend at the coffee shop, I sent a message to my husband. I said, okay, we're going in. And he's like, okay. And she sent a message to her sister, said, we're going in. And then we went in to meet him. And when we were done, my husband actually weren't even done because we hit it off so well. We started talking. Right. And we talked at the coffee shop for quite a while. My husband sent me a text, are you okay? And I realized that it had been more than an hour. And I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah, we're fine, honey.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's just a good rule of thumb. But Calico, I really do appreciate you calling in with that, as horrible as that situation is. But as cautionary tales go, it's a good one to, for those, you know, for those listening personally, for those that have kids, talk to your kids too. We actually, after I heard that story that I had told before Calico came on, we had a talk with our son because he does play a lot of online games, and we do know he plays with some older people as well. But, you know, we try to keep an eye on him and make sure that you never give out, you know, and they always say the same thing. Of course I wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. But that's the same thing this kid in the story was telling, too. And he knew better because he'd actually seen, you know, people threaten his family. Right. Because this one was okay. So it's something you just always have. It's an unfortunate reality that we have to be careful, be aware, and be careful of that. And I mean, like I said, we're safer today than we have been, you know, since the 80s. I mean, it was far more dangerous when I was growing. There were a lot more kidnappings and things when I was growing up. You know, going to the park for 5 hours all by myself at the age of 6 than there are today.
Yes. There was a lot more abuse and kidnappings and disappearing children, but we didn't have the internet and communities didn't talk to each other. Yeah. So you didn't know what was happening in a place 500 miles away, 1,000 miles away. You only knew what happened in your, you only knew what your newspaper reported or the radio, and that was it. And, you know,
it was the old Dan Rather thing, you know, if it's not reported here, it's not news. That kind of, you know, that was the mentality. If it didn't
that guy,
you know, if it wasn't reported, it didn't happen. Now,
see, they had a string of people kidnapping blonde-haired, blue-eyed children. I was younger in the 80s, and my mom, of course, me and Joel were kind of the same look.
I think I actually remember that.
And my mom was so like honest about that stuff to the point where me and Joel were dubious people, even in kindergarten. Like, we talked to each other. If somebody came up to us, we're like, "Who are you?" And we give them like this whole interrogation.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I was brown-eyed.
My mom
and
made us
brown-haired,
paranoid.
so I was good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right,
And,
I'm heading out.
back
You
in
guys
the-
have a good one.
Yeah. Appreciate
bye,
you
honey.
calling in, Calico.
Yeah,
You have a
thanks,
good night.
pal.
Thanks for calling, man.
Back in the 80s in Iowa is when everything changed, or 70s, late 70s and early 80s is when we lost those boys.
As you trim
that
your
were-
nails.
I'm not trimming my nails. I'm messing
Somebody's
with
trimming
something with my hands. I just moved my clippers. Be quiet. Anyway,
Busted.
a boy disappeared delivering newspapers, and then 12 years later, on the same route, another boy disappeared. And no one ever figured out if they were together. No one ever found their bodies. Nobody ever found them again. They're still missing today. Johnny Gosh and I can't think of the other boy's name. But it shook up everybody's community in Heron, Iowa, because, you know,
Iowa.
5-year-olds walked home.
Right.
I mean, nobody locked their doors. And so it was, the news was changing at that point, and people were finding out stuff about things faster, and we weren't safe anymore. And that continued until, like you said, the late 80s, early 90s, things started to get better.
But the
because-
mentality didn't.
No.
The statistics and safety changed, but I mean, look at the
Because
helicopter parents these days.
everybody, yeah. And, you know, people look at me kind of funny because my kids never were with anyone that I didn't know until they were 12, 13 years old. I just didn't. I wasn't going to have my kids be a statistic. But
Yeah,
the cost of that is the independence that I had as a child.
Right, it's they're
Didn't
not
exist.
learning. There's actually I actually heard there's this, I forget what it's called now, but it's kind of like the old Simpsons joke. Let's check on the free range children. It's basically trying to go back to the ways that things are, you know, especially since it's so much safer. But and I understand, like, the people that were talking about it, they're like, I get it. Like, I know he knows all the statistics, he knows all the facts, but he's got kids, and he's like, I don't want to be the one that didn't, like, keep an eye on them, and then they turn into one of these, you know, the bad
it's all well
statistic.
and good for that 5-year-old to walk to school, but I don't want to be a statistic.
You don't want to be the one that the
Right.
one in 100,000 that it happens to, right?
Right. And so I'm careful
And so
with
you're
my
careful,
kids, and I always
right.
have been.
Yeah.
And we had the stranger danger conversation, which, you know, no one had that talk with me when I was a child. And frankly, if they had, I probably wouldn't have suffered some of the things I suffered, because that just was never discussed. And I look back now at the things that I did and said as a child that put me in danger, and
Oh yeah,
I was
I know.
no surprise that
It's like,
I
Did that?
I'm amazed I
Did
Did
survived.
that all in one breath. That's impressive, Jazz.
Yeah,
What?
she's
That
got
whole tirade you just did in one breath.
she's
I was like,
got
I'm
massive
not
lung
a comment.
capacity.
Dang, man.
I used to
Say.
sing, and I'm a stage actor. So yeah, I have.
You're an actor or
And
something.
a mother.
And a mother.
You didn't
I
do
yell
your
at-
chores. I can't believe you didn't do your chores. I tell you all the time you're supposed to do your chores, and yet every day I come home, your chores aren't done.
Gee, I've
just
heard
had
this
that
before somewhere,
conversation
Ashen.
with my kids just today because they were arguing, and I snapped. I was tired of it, and I put both of their computers away. I raged at them, and then I put their 8-year-old brother in charge of them.
Nice.
Wait,
Nice.
a second there. That I heard my mother, but she's been dead for like 5 years.
Say, Jazz, like that whole deal, like my mom was so honest that like I said, we were paranoid of other people, period. So if me and Joel were out playing with our buddies like we used to be able to in the late 80s, early 90s, if we saw somebody that didn't like jive, we're like, dude, you need to get out of here before we call the cops on you. And the people would flee from us. But we were on top of our stuff. But that was because my mom was hyper vigilant about people you don't know.
Yeah, especially you blonde hair, blue eye Nazi babies.
Yeah, that's right. That was me.
It's interesting because, like, when I was a child, when you know, my parents were done dealing with me for the day, they would just tell me to go outside and play. Go outside and play, and it was okay. And that was something that you could just do. And I don't see parents doing that anymore.
Yeah, we're our neighborhood here, where it's actually not too bad, because a lot of the biggest complaint we have around here is people going too fast through the neighborhood, which is probably a universal thing. But
just don't tell your children to play in the street.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's actually I send mine out at night as the black ghost of the night in black sheets with eye holes cut out, but tell them to play on the highway. But I may not be the best example of what a parent should do with their very young children. But
well, we just recently here in Iowa have started having people come out and are trying to get kids. We've had a mess of disappearances and kidnappings and murders, and so we're back to being vigilant again.
Right.
But yeah, it's safer, but it still is really important for people to be careful.
You don't want that to be your kid.
You don't ever stop being vigilant, man.
No.
That's kind of the lesson.
But so as we were saying though, when the time is, basically the biggest thing is mutual trust. If you both trust each other enough, then that's when you can start talking about that. If you're not, if one of you is like, yeah, we should totally meet, and you're like, you know what? Come up with some excuses. Come up with, it's okay.
And then sometimes you end up marrying them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, Yunfei. I really should have warned you more about this before you met him, but
we had known each other 4 months, almost to the day before we met in real life, and we just got lucky.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's a mutual trust thing. You both, and clearly, you moving across the country several times together, so that one worked out.
Yeah, I had some bad luck meeting people online. And so I was really skeptical when Rahanar asked to come visit. And I kept saying, no, it's not a good idea. No, it's not a good idea. It's not going to work out. And then finally he was like, Mel, I'm coming to visit and we're going to have fun. And that was it.
That's not creepy at all.
Well, I wasn't alone. I had
that's good.
Friends and roommates and stuff. So,
Ashton, on your point, that whole pressure you to sometimes they'll pressure you to meet. Like that's what happened to me.
Right, that's what you happened. Yeah.
One of the EQ2 players I used to hang out with all the time, and it did pretty bad. But lesson learned. Don't do that.
I mean,
don't be coerced into it.
Like Yunfei said, I kind of went, hey, come on, you wanna, come on.
You pressured her, bro. You're the creepy guy.
I absolutely did.
What a creeper.
Yeah.
Who's our call screener, no less?
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't creepy.
Let's see here. So, and one of the other things, like we were saying with that whole thing, giving out addresses and phone numbers, it can be good and bad. Good is, like we've all got each other's numbers for the show and stuff like that. It can be, we use it for like, hey, Strafei, are you awake? Hey, Strafei, the show's starting in 5 minutes. It's starting now. Okay, he must be asleep.
Don't you, Jack? That happened once, man.
I know. But
how many times has Kishmas not been? I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, but he always lets us know.
I
wanted to read.
But I know. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Razor's Edge put in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he said, back in EQ2, my ex-wife and I were in the same guild, and we made an announcement that we were going to host a real-life meetup for the guild members. We were going to hold it at a local amusement park. We found out that a couple of guildies who were in America from Sweden visiting relatives were going to be in the area. So we planned the date around their visit. So it was us, the couple from Sweden, and another couple of guys from Michigan. And it said they had a blast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it said they even had hats made up with their characters' names embroidered on it. And the couple from Sweden had T-shirts with their characters' images on them. So, I mean, that's a good story. I wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Been waiting, but it was been like, I don't know where I can stick this little story in there.
Stick that in with all the child abductions and being shot in the chest. Yeah, it was a little difficult to squeeze that in there.
But I thought it was a cute story. I was like,
that's a good one. Especially because they're Swedish. I love the meatballs.
And they had little hats and shirts. Okay.
But the that's a good, if you share phone numbers and things like that, like I said, you just don't do anything you're not prepared for, because on the bad side, if you can let people know if like you lose power or there's a storm. Like, hey, I'm okay. Jazz did that recently when they had that tornado and things like that. She was able to get on there and be like, I'm okay, I'm alive. I guess the bad side is, I mean, I guess you could end up with a lot of dick pics.
Oh no.
Or
I have noticed that a lot of people
send dick
give
pics?
out. Well, that yes. I'm talking more about that they give out their information. They talk on Discord. They show body parts on Discord.
Yeah.
Way earlier than my paranoid self
would do.
Comfortable. Yeah. And I've been asked, "Hey, can I do this?" With me, who've heard me on the podcast, and they've sent me a message and asked me that. And I have a little chuckle, and then I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Sorry, no. And now, to their credit, they didn't push it. So I said no, and that was the end of it. But I think that maybe it's because we're all isolated and lonely, but I do think that some people are far more willing to...
I will say the other part of that too, Jazz, is if you notice too, it seems to be the younger they are, the more willing they are to do it, because they're growing up with this technology and more.
That's true. They're more comfortable with it.
They didn't grow up in the era of the paranoia that we had with it as it was coming up, and so they're so much more comfortable with it. I don't think that sometimes they understand the inherent dangers that go along with this stuff. It's just something that's been in their life their whole time,
Because they've said stuff on Facebook posts that identify them.
Yeah.
Like casual ones. And I'm just like, I've told him, delete this now.
Yeah.
Because they're both on my Facebook, so I can see what they post. Yeah. And they balked at that. But I was like, no, this is non-negotiable. If you're going to have Facebook, I'm going to be one of your friends. Deal with it. And I've had to tell them. And there was a guy who was obviously inappropriate with my boys. One of my boys, and was like, "So you're so cute, you are so pretty. What is your name? How old are you?" Yeah. And I walked over to his computer. I said, "Put him on block now." He's nice. No, he's not. Put him on block now.
Yeah. Like, and I say that because we've known several young and even underage people. And it's not a thing I would ever consider. Like, for one, wow. And two, I mean, like, obviously that's something no normal, rational person would say that's under the age of 80. Like, if you're 80 years old, you can be like, oh, your son's adorable. He's just got the chubbiest cheeks. Where am I?
Yeah, but a 30-year-old saying that
is a red flag, right?
Well, the other thing, too, is that with social media being the way it is, pretty much if you're on social media, the more social media that you have, the more information that people can get about you very
easily, yeah, for sure. And there's a weird disconnect with, especially as the younger generations are growing up. I'm almost 40, excuse me, and just hitting puberty, apparently. I'm almost 40. Jazz is in her 50s. We're all in. I think Rohanar's in his mid-30s, and of course the youngest of us all is Kishmis. But we've got a very varying level of most of us have grown up as this technology has come into it. So we were there with you never give everyone was a screen name. Now everyone's using their real names online for the most part,
Yes. What is that? That just
it's
makes
Facebook,
me so uncomfortable.
Facebook and things like that, there's a thing I think, when we were growing up, it was never get in the car, never talk to strangers and never get in a car with them. And these days, it's like you talk to nothing but strangers, and here's your Uber driver who you've never met. Get in the car with him.
Yes, that really freaks me out, and I know it's cool and that I should be okay with it, but I'm totally not.
Yeah,
One thing, an Uber driver is not supposed to take any fare that has a child that is not accompanied by an adult that is under the age of 17.
Right, and that's all good. However, at the same time, I've heard some pretty big horror stories from Uber drivers when it comes to a full-grown ass adult.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's move along here because we still had a bit to go through. Although I think we've covered a lot of this just in through other chats. But, I will say, like, it is super exciting to meet somebody in real life. And it is, if you're all comfortable with it, it's totally worth it. Like, talking with Yunfei and Rohanar, in their apartment the other day, about nerd stuff and just wherever, just talking, it was really neat. I mean, it's basically the same thing we're doing here, but there's a different level to it when it's, human interaction and their cats are like rubbing their butts in my face for whatever reason, because one of them really likes me, that's
the one that's in Heat.
Oh, no wonder. What can I say? The bitches love me.
Well, they're not bitches, dear, but
bitches love me.
I remember it differently.
That's my line. You can't say it.
I'm your Padawan. I get to use it sometimes.
But
yeah, having that face-to-face meeting, it's more intimate.
Yeah, there's a lot more. It's just it's a human interaction. I mean, there's talking on voice is definitely is as close as you're going to get to it. It'd be text, voice, and then obviously face-to-face meeting. But you just be safe. Be safe. It's basically it's what this whole episode's kind of about, is just be safe. You have to protect yourself, and I'll be the chauvinist pig and say it, especially to you women out there, and men as well, because there are some women out there that will kick the shit out of you. Be careful, because you don't always necessarily know somebody. It's like Jazz was doing. You got to take care of it. There's a lot of the scary things out there. All that stuff that we had gone over with the stuff that before. You just need to protect yourself. And so a few quick things other than, what Jazz had done. One of them, which seems to be something that's gone by the wayside, is listen to your gut. Nature, God, millions of years of evolution and being hunted by pack animals, whatever you want to say it is, has given everyone an instinctive ability to sense danger and pick up on things in the environment around you that, while you may not consciously understand, you feel deep down. It's your gut check, So if something in your gut doesn't feel right, listen to your gut. Don't do it.
Yes.
It's okay. Yep. If
I rely a lot on that. That is
right.
very, even as a social worker, one of the things that they teach you when you're being trained is if it feels wrong, get out of there.
Get out of there. Right. If you
don't talk yourself out of it. If you're uncomfortable, get out of there. Trust your gut.
Say something.
Oh, I should have listened to myself back then when you said she was okay, Jazz.
Yeah, you should have told me so. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that.
It's all good.
But, and so, tell them that you can't, or whatever reason, whatever reason you have, you don't have to be like, you make me uncomfortable. Because it may not even be that. You just might be like, I just really don't kind of want to do that. And maybe there's something for some reason. If they're a friend, they'll understand. They'll be like, okay, whatever. I tried. And if they fly off the handle, kind of an answer. Maybe your gut was telling you something. Because if they get really offended and pissed off, then something was definitely not right there, and you were picking up on some signals.
Yeah, if someone you meet and it seems fine, and suddenly they're like, look, I just got to go. You just got to let them. I mean, that happened to me with one of the people that I met. It's like, I just got to go. And it's like, that's fine. I'll see you in game. And that was the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody has their own boundaries, their own anxieties, and you have to respect that. So don't take it personally if you get all the way to California and then want to meet. It also could be that they're scamming you. So, keep a open mind. But, it might just be they freaked out and they don't want to meet you. So give it a couple days and go sightseeing. California's cool.
Yeah. It's beautiful, especially every time of year.
Yes, every time of year. So, but one of the biggest things I tell people is when you're going to go meet somebody somewhere in another state, in another town, whatever it is, and you're going to be spending the night there, you're going to stay a couple days and get to know them or whatever, get a hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
Never, for your first time, don't say, well, you can just come and stay with me and save the money. No. When I went down the first time, we had a hotel room. When I went back the next time, several times, I've been there 4 times now, I stayed with them. But that first time, yeah, I saved up the money so that we could have a hotel room. So it's not, and they were like, don't you trust me? And I was like, darling, this has nothing to do with you. This is safety. And she was like, well, you've got a point. You don't know me from Adam. Right. So she took it and she was like, you're right.
It'd be the same, and if they're like, well, why don't you trust me? Like, put ourselves in reverse situations. If you were coming to my house, it's for your safety as much as, role reversal. It's just something you should take care of yourself, Be
sensible, think it through, make sure that you have a plan of attack, that you know what you're going to do, and make sure that you're on your own footing. Because you're walking into it in a situation where you don't know where you are, you don't know what's going to happen. Not really. So it's important for you to have a plan so that you can handle it if things do go sideways.
Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to have the plan. And they go crazy when it doesn't happen.
I, of course, am OCD about that. But it is really important for everybody to have that plan. I mean, Gina and I, when we went down there, my friend that passed away, when we went down there together, we also had a plan for what happened if we got separated. Where would we meet? We picked a place on the map and we said, this is where we'll come to if we get separated for some reason. So, I mean, we had we weren't just saying, well, we're together, so it's fine. We still had a plan of what we were going to do regardless. And I think that that's imperative for people to do when you visit other people, is to be ready for anything, because it is dangerous. You're inherently walking in a situation that is dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the other things you could do too, especially these days, which is become a lot easier, is snoop around a bit. I mean, if you're at the point of meeting someone in real life, likely you've already know their real life name. Social media is out there. It costs nothing to plug their name in and take a look. If they haven't already been like, hey, friend me on Facebook, if you're meeting somebody for a weekend that's single, and then you look on their Facebook and they've got pictures of wife or husband and kids, maybe you're not going to meet up for just a hookup after all. Maybe you could still be doing that, but you also might be breaking up a family. Just saying.
Yeah. I did that with all of the people that I went. I looked them up on Facebook. I was already friends with them, but I mean, I went to their page and
looked through and made sure and checked out their stuff. And made
sure that I was doing what I thought I was doing.
Look at some of their comments on stuff and make sure they're not like, and so another, they're not on the how to hide a body in the backyard Facebook group, that kind of thing.
That they really had kids, that they really had the job they said they did.
Right.
Checking those details out is absolutely okay and absolutely imperative.
These days, that's literally like 10 minutes worth of work, if that.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
Really not hard.
Didn't cost me a penny, and I knew more about them than they.
Yeah.
But I'm lazy, Jazz. I don't want to do all that research.
Social media these days, it's easy to find out about people.
It really is.
It really is.
Yes, that's right.
I'm just being bratty, by the way.
If the only thing you can find out about them on Facebook is their Facebook name, like a lot of people have their character name as a Facebook page.
Yeah.
These are not people to go visit.
Probably not. Yeah, that's and I get it, like on like if you're looking on Tumblr, I hear a lot of people do like Tumblr pages for their characters where they keep up with it. And that's different. That's like a whole different thing. Like people, it's like us writing journals is basically where they keep their journals at for their Tumblr page.
I just think it's creepy, but yeah,
right. But it's kind of, they just write it there. It's basically like they'll post it on the forums, but they'll put everything there so they have it all in one place. It's like that I kind of get. But if your Facebook page, however, that's a little different. That's not that. It's not really typically that's.
You need to be able to know who they are, what their name is. Just have some general details. Do not. And I actually talked a girl out of going to meet somebody, and he had his character name on his Facebook page and nothing else.
Yeah.
And he told her where he lived and to meet her there, and it would all be great. And I said, have you lost your mind? You don't even know what this person's name is. Well, his name is the character name.
Right.
No, that's his character name. Never mind, of course, later I found out that she really couldn't tell the difference between reality and fiction. But
right.
Nevertheless...
At the same time, you don't know that he's not, you know, you don't know that he's Steve Stevenson that, you know, works in accounting. Which is why the other thing is the first time you typically meet somebody, you should do that in a public space.
Yes, always.
Like the coffee shop, you know, over at McDonald's, somewhere fancy like that. Go out to eat in an open, you know, in a restaurant or someplace like that. There's someplace where there's people around. You know, I think Jazz, you were the one here that put it stuff like Craigslist. You know, it's this. You're not going to meet somebody. If I'm selling something on Craigslist, I'm not giving somebody my home address. You know,
no,
that ain't going to happen. We're going to meet in a parking lot of a Quick Trip. You know, that's where those types of things take place. And if you're going to meet somebody for the first time, it needs to be somewhere public. You know, first time I met Rahanar and Yunfei, it was in an airport. I felt fairly safe. But of course, we were also their ride. But that's beside the point. They got into a ride with complete strangers. It was really not the best thing they could have ever done. But we got all that shit in the trunk. That is a big trunk.
I have to say, in the Twitch chat, Coyote said something about MySpace.
I know.
And
oh, God.
I had to giggle. Oh, my God.
That's like so 20 years ago. So
I mean, is it still around?
I think it is.
Back in
it's around, but you don't want to be there.
We used the MySpace.
Pepperidge Farm remembers the MySpace.
That's right.
He said, my mom actually met a man she met in one of those crappy MySpace MMO games.
Yeah.
It's a music platform now, he says.
Well, it was originally a music platform too, but it became the social media thing, but then Facebook did it better. So yeah, it started out as actually a music platform for people to share their bands and things like that, and then other people started making private pages, and it kind of took off, and then Facebook kind of overdid it. But it is still out there.
I wasn't really a very social media type person.
Well, back then, yeah. That was definitely the beginning stages when people were still on dial-up to do that stuff. And everybody had those flaming GIFs and things like that on the sides, because that's how you knew that you had a rockin' page.
And then there was Open Diary.
Yeah. And if
Open Diary's back. Thank you very much.
And if you went on their page and it started playing the music they like to play, then they knew what they were doing.
Oh my God, that drives me crazy.
Yeah, I have all that stuff shut off, so it doesn't even run on my computer.
That was MySpace. So we're gonna kind of wrap this up here. And I know a lot of this for hopefully, I'm gonna hope for most people this is common sense stuff that we're all talking about here. Like, oh, of course I would do that. But not everyone has the same common sense. And honestly, there are a lot of people there that a lot of people, like I said that story earlier, that can manipulate you to such a degree that you really don't know who they are. There are those, there are those people out there, and I understand it's rare. It's probably very rare. But it's a very real thing, and I want everybody to protect themselves. Obviously, if you're going to meet your friends and it's going to be a good time, 99% of the time it's going to be awesome. This is just to guarantee that you always stay in that 99%, 99.9 probably at that. There's not that many crazy people out there, although we role play with most of them. So, just take care of yourselves. Have fun in your role play. If you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. And if you do meet it, you're probably going to have a great time. I know Uni's met a lot of people from EQ. You met the Vagabond. You were able to go to that Vagabond Nights thing, weren't you?
Yeah, there was a guild meetup at Niagara Falls on the Canada side, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I met the Bloodthorn folks, which a lot of them lived in Washington. So I got
Why
to meet
did you want to meet the Bloodthorns?
because they're nice people. Oh, Sealy, they're nice people.
Mhm.
The guild leader of Bloodthorns and I are friends. So when I went there, I got to meet her in person, which was fantastic, and she's just amazing. So it can go great, but yeah, you just please be careful.
Yeah, just watch out for yourselves.
Even at meetups, there can be creeps. Like I went to the Raven Mythic meetups. I had gone there for a few years. Oh my god, that's my cat. Sorry. And like one of the last ones I went to, there was some guy there that was just trying to go around taking picture of boobs.
Yeah, because it was funny and cute, right?
Yeah, I told him to keep looking.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that, and some people think that stuff is just hilarious. And maybe it is, but
Well, he was asked to leave pretty soon into the visit.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, because there are those people that they act like it's cute and funny, but they're really got more nefarious things in mind. But really, I mean, for the most part, all the things, all the people we've all met, and it all turns out just fine. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet somebody, you get to make new friends in the real world, which I don't think you can ever really have too many of, given how introverted most of us as role players can kind of be. But it's something just to keep in mind when you start bandying about meeting somebody in real life. And given I don't know how many people actually this might even cover, hopefully it was something worth thinking about. Just even if you don't plan on meeting them, it's still a good idea if you don't want to meet them not to give out your information for that stuff, because then you might end up meeting them when you didn't want to because they're at your doorstep. So, good times.
I do want to reiterate something you said.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to reiterate that if you say that you're uncomfortable and don't want to meet up yet, and they don't respect that they're not really your friend.
That's definitely a flag on the field of something to be warned about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, I think that about covers it. Anybody got anything at the end here? Or are we all good and spooked and never want to step outside our house again?
I think it's all common sense, man.
It is. It's just
real quick. Apparently, I don't have any common sense because I never followed any of those rules.
Well, I mean, you said it. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're saying that, that's fine. I mean, we
love you, Uni.
We were all thinking it, but it worked out well for Rahanar at least.
Yes, it did.
That's because he's a creeper, bro. Self-admitted, see?
Yeah. Yes. So, all right. Well, go ahead and close this thing down. I want to appreciate everybody that was listening live over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. Everybody on the podcast that's listening to it right now. We definitely appreciate you guys. Caligo, thanks very much for calling in. Your story was terrifying, but definitely one worth hearing. So with that, I want to thank everybody on my crew, Jazz, Sib, Strafay, even Kishmas, who last I heard he was driving across country to probably meet somebody in real life that didn't really want to be, but I don't know. I can't talk for him. Also, of course, our call screeners who stayed on the episode this time because it was relevant and we wanted to hear what they had to say about meeting people, because Uni's met more people than most of us have. So I appreciate Rahanar and Yunfei, our moderator and call screener, for stepping up and doing what they do every episode. I want to remind everybody to, if you got anything you want to throw at us, questions, things like that, rpmradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, over at Twitter at rpmradio.com. It usually has a lot of the most up-to-date information because it's super easy. And, of course, the best and easiest way of all of them, rpmradio.com/Discord. You can join our Discord server, chat with us during the day, in the week, ask us questions like William Houni, has been doing. We're more than happy to answer questions and comments and concerns and things like that crop up in your role play, especially when you're learning and things like that. We're more than happy to help. That's the whole point of all of this rigmarole.
Yes, which
Second
I have to
word
say,
of the day.
Williams really, like, he said around 40 people at his event
That's insane.
that we all kind of threw in comments about to help him with, and he said everything worked out really good, so I'm glad to hear it.
So, all right, well, with that, everyone, I want you to tune in next week as we talk about why you should never meet a halfling, especially alone in a shed for 5 minutes, no questions asked. Next time on RPMMORadio. Good night, everybody! The thoughts and opinions of those on RPMMORadio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great video game rock covers and original music.